I didn't have the mic on.
Yeah.
Take 2, here it comes.
Hi, Rebels, and welcome to the Supply Chain Revolution podcast, provocative points of view that challenge paradigms for progress. Today, we have Lauren Acoba from Starbucks, who is a senior group manager in global sourcing and food supply chain, focusing on sustainability.
Lauren, question for you.
Yes.
What's the best coffee you've drank lately, and do you drink coffee while you're pregnant?
I am repulsed by coffee while I'm pregnant, ironically. And I work at Starbucks Coffee Company. So I haven't drank any coffee for several months. But I am really enjoying black tea, our Teavana black tea. And that's how I stay caffeinated in the mornings. Yeah.
Bummer. Do you feel like in supply chain, our days are just a series of failures, and then we don't really think about it because our job is to get it done, but inevitably it's just like fail, 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 fail. Okay, cool. Next item.
Yeah. And nobody talks about supply chain at our company town halls unless there's a giant failure. It's like, thanks speed of marketing for, the amazing holiday promo. Yes. Supply chain, get your together,
Totally. And this is actually really interesting that we see a shift between no news is good news in the supply chain. And we're right in the middle of this transition to where consumers want to pick up a Starbucks cup, scan that cup, and know what's in it, what's around it, how it got to them, what's it made out of, can I compost this, can I take this home, does it have a seed in it, was a child involved in the creation of this cup, where did this coffee come, when was it grown, was it grow at a high temperature? And I find that this is new for the supply chain, to go from a world where it was essentially, we don't ask questions, you just get your work done. Are you seeing that shift? And what's an example of a shift you're seeing in that kind of a new way of having a kind of a black box to a glass box of a supply chain?
Yeah. I think that I am seeing that shift in the consumer. And in some companies, they are like Everlane. I think about Everlane and how they're illuminating what supply chain does to bring the product to life for the customer in a way that is impactful, to our world. But I'm not yet. I'm seeing glimmers of hope, but I'm not yet seeing all companies necessarily see the value of how we communicate that supply chain to the customer. Yeah. So I'm excited, and I think we are continuing to push, and I'm seeing changes in our organization around supply chain having more of a seat at the table in a lot of these conversations, and leaders seeing supply chain as more of an enabler and less of a, get it done.
Can you give me an example of these shifts in leadership styles you've seen over the last 5-10 years? And just give a couple of examples to inspire hope and optimism to all those rebels out there that, yes, leadership is changing.
Yeah, absolutely. I have seen a huge shift, especially in the last 3 years, I would say, in diversity of the leadership I'm seeing, and not only the gender of leaders, the age of leaders, and the experience. I think in my experience previously, it was all about checking the box. Does someone check the box? And, you see leaders that they've done logistics for 25 years and they're the expert and they've done it at all the companies, and those are the people that get those roles. And now I'm seeing our our senior level leadership respecting and kind of valuing leaders that have a diverse set of experiences and more for who they are as a leader and how they develop people and how they drive work forward, and less about what boxes they've checked on their resume.
Super encouraging, I think, especially in supply chain, and seeing a separation between technical expertise and really good management style, because it's really hard to be a leader. It's really hard to be a good manager, too. What's one of the elements of a good manager? Pause leader for a second and think a really good people manager. What's one characteristic you find that even if you don't have it, if I don't have it, if people, it's the rare unicorns. You're like, oh, wow, you are good at managing people.
Okay, so first of all, I don't see managing people different than leading. But because I think that we need to be leaders at all levels. But I would say an ability to inspire people to do things that they never would have done. And they might not necessarily know it's you. Like really good leaders, it's not their idea. Like they get no credit for it. Yeah. But people get better who are working for them. And that's a really good leader to me.
I think that's a really nice test of people get better when they're working for you. I think that's really nice. What is one of the best leaders that you have worked for, with, around, and can you give an example or a story about one or two of those leaders?
Okay, so I'm going to give an example about Hans, who's our EVP of supply chain at Starbucks. And I have a huge amount of respect for him. And there was a moment on my last job, he brought me into his office and I was so nervous because, of course, I hadn't worked with him.
And what was remarkable about this time for you in life coming back into the office?
Oh, yes. I just had my second child. Yes, this is my third. Truly a rebel. And he basically, I didn't know what my role was. They were like, you're going to do some strategic projects for a while. I was like, great, I'm up for the challenge. What am I doing? And he brought me in his office and basically had a piece of paper that had his vision for what he wanted to do to change the organization on it. And it was in the form of bullets and a mind map of words essentially connected to other words. And it just, I think for me, that was a moment where I realized, he's an EVP, but he is down to earth. One, and empowering his people. Like he sees a partner, like I'm not an SVP, right? I'm at a program manager level at that time. And he had a vision that was very lofty and he didn't know how to get there, but he knew how to set that vision and at least explain to me what he wanted to see change in the organization and then give me the runway to do that in whatever way I saw fit.
So there's 3 themes we explore on the Revolution podcast, and I think one of the projects that you worked on that you're able to share with us might fit into one of those 3 categories. Are you able to share one project that you shared with?
Yeah. Yes. So we had a really big week last week, and I couldn't share earlier because it was not public yet. But we announced at Starbucks our commitment to essentially give back to the earth more than what we take from it. And one, that gets me so excited as a human and as a professional. And I actually now have the opportunity to work on that program for our food business and figuring out what that looks like. And we've set some really lofty goals around how to do that. And that inspires me as a leader, to know that we have a really lofty goal that we don't know how to get to it. And having to forge that.
So just crash course, as everybody I'm sure knows by now by heart, regenerating natural systems, huge principle of the circular economy. What is the circular economy? Come and check us out at supplychainrevolution.com and I'll tell you all about it. But to be able to actually put back more into the earth, and we're not talking carbon negative here, we're talking actually regenerating natural systems, which is incredibly hard to do. So I'm really excited to keep an eye on the work that you're all doing. Can you give me another example of a leader who you've encountered when you think, wow, this is great. I could actually be, you inspire me to actually be a leader because you are a little bit different than.
The leader that comes to my mind she's our CPO. Her name's Kelly Bankston. And she's been with the company less than 10 years, I think, and has had an amazing progression in her personal career at Starbucks. And just really inspires me as a leader. And I think if I think about why, she is herself. She's authentically herself every single time I see her. And a lot of times I'll try to come to meetings with her and present a business case, and she's talking about her kids, about her life, about what she's thinking about at night, asking me questions about my life. And I think it's really important to have a leader who is humble, and regardless of what position they're in, they're willing to connect with you and really truly be their authentic self. And that inspires me.
Yeah, I love when you have the chance to meet a very senior leader, or even a junior leader, and somebody who's really a normal person who just happens to be in a really important position, and I get really inspired by that. Okay, let's talk a little bit about people management. You say is the same as leadership. So when you think about the teams you've led, talk a little bit about how do you know when there is some talent that you see a spark and you think, wow, given the right circumstances, this person could really blossom into a really incredible leader?
I think for me, the most important element of that equation is drive. And a partner or a professional having that fire in them and that desire to see things different than the way that they are, both for the business and for their own career, and having that passion, that fire, and being able to articulate it. Sometimes it can be misdirected. And I think I've had that too, where some partners, they have the passion, but they don't know where to put it. And that's part of our job as leaders. And I would say the second thing is curiosity and a willingness to ask questions and to continue on a learning journey and really have a growth mindset, because to me that says no matter where you're at in your career and what challenges you're faced with, you're going to have the drive to push through it, and you're going to ask the right questions and be humble enough to be okay to fail.
We talk about supply chain rebels, and a rebel is somebody who keeps pushing, keeps asking, is tenacious, is determined, who will stop a meeting if somebody's been interrupted and say, hey, that person wasn't finished. And they're really looking for a new school way of going through the business world. And I can remember back in my early career, kind of my moment when I thought, wow, there's another way. I don't have to do the same pattern. I don't have to do the same path as everybody else. There's another option. Can you think about a time in your career that either sparked or reiterated to you that you are a supply chain rebel?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think about the last role I had when I had this task from Hans to create this program around really transforming the way we went to market with products. And I had to get alignment from our product and marketing team because we wanted it to be co-led by supply chain and marketing, not led by marketing and supported by supply chain, and not the other way around. And there was a director in that space that I needed to influence, and I had a meeting with him. And I sat down and I shared with him the proposal, the benchmarking that I'd done, used all my influencing tactics. And essentially I got a very, patronizing response. Like, that's so cute. Oh, no. Yeah, that's great. Like, good luck. And basically I'm not aligned to support it or be like your co-lead in it. And I left that meeting, I was really tempted to be kind of downtrodden and be like, okay, like, all right, we'll just have to do what we can do within supply chain. And I was like, no way. Like, this is not over. Like, I am not done. And if you think we're done, we are not. And so I had to really go back to the drawing board and think about how am I going to influence him in a way that he will hear it. And I knew about him that he's influenced by male leaders above him. So I found ways to influence leaders that could influence his leaders to get on board. And it took a long time. I mean, it took 6 to 9 months. And I was doing other work at the time too. But eventually we got alignment from all the senior leaders for a co-sponsored program around this. And I think then I knew I was a rebel.
Does he have any idea of what you did?
No. It was all behind the scenes. Yeah, he has no idea what I did.
Until now. Yeah. It's all out in the open. So I have one last question for you. As you think about these supply chain rebels in the world, sometimes we are lucky enough to find each other and to commiserate and share success stories and the downtrodden days. But sometimes we've got rebels all over the world who maybe don't have a community with them right next door. Supply chain can be a really fun job, and we get to do great, really exciting work. And sometimes it's also, back office, order management, and going through 100 POs and trying to figure out what's wrong and fix a problem. So for supply chain rebels everywhere, we like to think about the optimistic view because we get enough bad news in the world right now. So can you think about an optimistic tidbit or a moment of inspiration that helps you to come to work every day?
Yeah. So I'll give a quote that I've been thinking about this last week because I was just watching a video on TikTok. Yes, I do sometimes watch TikTok videos of a guy doing a snowboarding trail that was really difficult. And the quote was from Nelson Mandela. And it said, "There is no passion to be found in playing small and in living a life that's less than what you're capable of." And I think about that every day, and I have a Post-it note actually at my desk with all caps. It says relentlessly courageous. And that's my own reminder to myself to continue to be bold and to push forward even when I feel like I'm getting rejected or ignored, or I'm hitting walls at work, and to just keep going.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Listen, thank you for joining us. It's been a pleasure to speak with you here at Starbucks headquarters, and really appreciate your time.
Yeah, absolutely. I loved it. Thank you. Thank you for making me part of this.